Or I'll switch to you and actually take a cue from that. So what do you think is the speed of change? Do you think it is actually upon us and we are not prepared? Or do you think we are doing okay in terms of, because there are these views talking about mindset, but then mindset means different things to different people. What would you say is the pace of change or the pace of learning or the pace of change of mindset? Let us know what you think, what's going on, because you're on the execution front.
Thank you. I think, first of all, it's important to understand what we mean when we say digitization.
Yeah.
Digitization, by definition, talks about, or what it entails is hyperconnectivity, high frequency, high velocity transactions. So when you talk about hyperconnectivity and high frequency and high velocity, that helps you, and when you keep that in mind, that helps you put things in context in terms of where we are today, where we are headed, and what are the kind of challenges and risks that the increased digitization will bring with it. So we have been, I think most of the things people have talked about in the morning, so I will probably be repeating a lot of that. So as we look around in Pakistan, there is a very strong push towards digitization, and we are getting onto that bandwagon where we are becoming more increasingly digital as a country in terms of at least the financial transactions, if not the rest of the thing. But what the increased digitization does is it brings with it certain risks, and those risks are important to understand. And those are not only limited to the banks itself. When you talk about hyperconnectivity, you're talking about connecting with the whole ecosystem. And that is why it is important to understand what different players in the ecosystem need to do, what kind of risks do they bring into the system, and what is the kind of responsibility that they need to take at their end to make sure that overall ecosystem is relatively well prepared to manage the risks.
So can you give us some example of who are some of those key players other than the financial services?
Well, you see, within the bank itself, there are some very obvious things. Everybody knows that compliance becomes a challenge when you're looking at very high frequency and high velocity transactions. So so the conventional ways of doing the compliance or AML or transaction monitoring will not work. So we have to move towards more data-based and machine learning-based solutions. You also face the challenge of data theft. You face the challenges of frauds from a consumer perspective. From an organization perspective, banks also face the challenges around the governance structure, the way the organizations are designed. From the risk management structure perspective, the way the risk protocols are defined, the way the responses to various incidences are defined, those are probably not geared today towards responding to a true digital related risks or a digital organization's governance
structure. So the point was that other than telecoms and banks, who are the frontline players, are there any other players who need to go through this transformation?
Yes, I think when we talk about the ecosystem, you need to look at the law enforcement agencies. Do they have the capability to go out and enforce, or to go out and to track those people who come in and who perpetrate some electronic fraud? Is our legislative structure, is our the rules around, or the penal structure around the frauds and all, are they aligned to address the challenges that are coming to? You look at our ecosystem partners, we talk about the FinTechs and all. When you look at those FinTechs, are those FinTechs capable of handling the kind of risks that are coming through these cyber threats and the cybersecurity related issues? Because they we can all be very well positioned, but they can bring in some threats. Within the banking system itself, one bank can be much better positioned than the other bank itself. So within the banking system itself, is there a consistency in terms of the threat posturing that different banks have? You look at the regulator itself. It's a new thing, everybody's learning, so the regulators are also learning as they go along. And they will also at times be reactive to what is happening. But the biggest challenge that remains with the digitization is that it can scale up at a very quick pace, and once it scales up and you try and go and manage the risk, it's going to be a real challenge at
Okay,
that point.
so it's going to be a real challenge. That's what we are hearing. It's the speed and the velocity.